So we can test the transportable export. How? We can provide this TTS closure check equal to test mode. And when we provide this parameter to data pump, it will not check if the table spaces are in read-only mode. So we can try the export without interfering in our production database, just maybe to measure the time or to see if any error would happen during the export. And for the import, we also have a parameter. We have this transportable equal to keep read-only. And this will prevent the data files to be touched when we plug them in. So that way we can still reuse the same data files to apply the new level 1 backups that we are taking from our source system. Let's see some more details about those two parameters. So going back to the export, we can test data pump without setting the data files and the table space in read-only mode using this TTS closure check equal to test. So that only tells data pump to totally ignore that check, but of course that because of that, this dump file that's generated is totally useless. This is only useful for testing the process and measuring the time and checking the logs for any possible errors, because this will be exactly the same data pump export command that you will run on your final migration. The only difference is that on the final migration, it's gonna check for the table spaces and data files if they are in read only, okay? So that's very useful for testing the export. And for testing the import, we can use this flag for keeping in read only mode, the transportable equal to keep read only. So that way we can plug in the data files that are placed on the destination server without changing them, because we are not updating their headers. They are kept in read only. And that way we can still use those data files for the new level 1 incrementals that we are taking and applying on those data files. Let's see that on a timeline, how we could use this feature. Okay, so here I have my source and target systems. First thing I do is I take a level 0 backup in my source system and the full export for transportable on it. In my destination server, what I do is I create a GRP on my database. So that way I can flash back later to this point after trying my changes. I move that backup, level 0 backup that I took on the source. I restore and recover the data files, and I do the impdp for transportable in that destination server. After I do my tries, I can flash back this database back to the GRP that I took before. But what you need to notice here is that my user01 data file and data01 data file, they are the same as before because I used that transportable equal to keep read-only flag. So that means that after I take a new level 1 backup in my source system and I produce a new full export for transportable, I can apply this level 1 incremental over that data files because they were not opened in read-write, meaning they are still the same. And I can retry the impdp operation in my destination server and again and again and try again. And that way I can check how my destination server will behave after receiving those data files and that data pump full transportable export. However, to take this full transportable export in the source database, I need to put the table spaces in read-only mode. We saw that flag that we could potentially give, but this flag to skip the check would give me a useless dump file. So I cannot use that to try the import on the destination server. So what I need to do here is put my source system in read-only mode before running that. But that's not something easy to do in a production system. So a workaround for that is using a physical standby database for the full transportable export testing. How you do that? You get your physical standby database, you take the level 0 and level 1 backups from there. And to test, what you do, you convert it to a snapshot standby, you bring your table spaces to read-only mode, and then you run there your full transportable export. and then you use that full transportable export to import on the destination database. Okay? And you can try that multiple times. Another thing that's very cool to try and very useful to check for any problem, potential problem that would occur when you import all the metadata in your target system is using a regular data pump full metadata export. That's not a transportable export, that's just a full export, but only of the metadata. And why that? Because then you can get everything from the database, try the import on that destination database. You can, of course, after that, just flash back to undo all these changes, but just to check if you would get any error during the import of all the metadata of the source database.